based on the conditions and the history of this area, we are going to be here for a while.
You just have to kind of roll with what happens, you know. We all have to adapt. So that's just the way that life is.
It was like a movie. We were watching the fire just roar, and you're just hearing this massive force of the elements come in.
We are adapting in real time. The news starts right now. Good afternoon, and thanks for being with us for this special 4 p.m. edition of NBC Bay Area News. I'm Raj Mathai.
And I'm Janelle Wang. We are on early because of all the new information and evacuation orders across the Bay Area. We also have Jessica Aguirre with us.
Raj and Janelle, progress tonight in the LNU fire. So much progress that some evacuation orders are being lifted, but now comes the hard part for homeowners who have to go back to see what, if anything, is left. The painful process ahead. I'll have that for you coming up.
Okay, thanks so much, Jessica. Well, signs of progress with all the fires. Containment on these massive fires is inching upward slowly. Overnight, the fog and cooler temps helped firefighters battling the CZU complex fire. They made some progress. This fire is burning along the coast in Santa Cruz and San Mateo counties. Nearly 79,000 acres have burned so far. Now, while this fire continues to grow, so does containment. At this hour, it stands at 17%. Now, as you know, the CZU is one of 3 major complex fires burning in the Bay Area. Take a look at where the other 2 are, the LNU complex in the North Bay and the SCU complex fire burning in the South Bay and East Bay.
Janelle, a little more details here. Let's get you inside the numbers. The SCU complex fire, it's now the largest, and it's raging across 5 separate counties, including Santa Clara County, Contra Costa County, and Alameda County. The numbers here, 363,000 acres, 15% containment, 20,000 homes threatened. It's there even in towards the east of Morgan Hill now. In the North Bay now, the LNU is the most destructive fire. 2 separate parts of the LNU fire. In the western part of Sonoma County, Healdsburg, that area in Guerneville, and then over across to Napa and Sonoma counties, Napa and Solano counties, 352,000 acres, 27% contained. That's some good news there. Sadly, though, 5 people have died. And then returning to the CZU fire, that's along the coast down here, San Mateo County coast, Santa Cruz County there. The numbers coming in, 78,000 acres burned, 17% contained, and 1 death. Janelle.
Raj, for days, hundreds of families in the Santa Cruz Mountains have been left wondering whether their homes are still standing or if they are among the hundreds destroyed by the fire. Today, we help one family find out. NBC Bay Area's Marianne Favreau joins us live from Scotts Valley with their story. Marianne.
Janelle, an evacuated homeowner reached out to us specifically after he saw news reports showing fire burning in his Brookdale neighborhood. And today he asked if we could go and check and see if his home was still standing. And fortunately, we were able to help him out.
All right, on the right, on this side.
Flames ripped through Clear Creek Road above the Brookdale Lodge Saturday, leveling almost everything in its path.
You just couldn't see it.
When James Hagan saw this video on TV, he knew the fire was close to his home.
That's the worst part about of this whole thing is not knowing what's happening with your property.
So he asked us to check on his home, and today we did. What we found were several homes in his neighborhood that had burned down to their chimneys. And James, too, had lost his home.
20 years of my time that I spent building my house and property into what it was, and just remembering how beautiful it was.
The fire destroyed his son's car and every inch of the hillside home. Hagan says they left with just a few items.
Computers, because they have pictures on them and stuff like that, and got my money and the cats and a couple little heirlooms.
Hagan says he remembers the 58 steps he climbed every day to reach his front door and the graduation party he hosted for his daughter here. But as he mourns the loss of his house, he is also grateful for what he didn't lose.
The cats are out, everybody's alive, and that's what really matters. That's the important thing.
And he's relieved to finally have answers.
I'm fortunate right now that you were able to let us know, because I bet there's thousands of people right now wondering what happened to their house.
Fortunately, James says he has insurance, and he says he does plan to rebuild. This is not the first time that his family has been displaced. About 7 years ago, a huge tree crashed into their living room, and they had to move out for 6 months. Reporting live in Scotts Valley, Marianne Favreau, NBC Bay Area News.
Marianne, thank you. There is some encouraging news in the North Bay. Some evacuation warnings have been called off, and some people are being allowed back into their homes. Jessica Aguirre continues our coverage. Great news now, Jess, for so many people who have just been living in limbo recently.
Yeah, it could be great news, Raj, but it could also be very difficult news. Here comes the hard part for homeowners going back into that fire zone to try to figure out if they have anything left standing. Now, progress is being made in the LNU fire. It is slow going, but they are improving. So much so that now some of those evacuation orders are being lifted and people are being allowed to go back home. Now, here are the latest facts about the fire. This is a huge fire. More than 350,000 acres burned. Containment, though, is finally ramping up, 27% today. And probably the best news of all, as we've been saying, parts of the fire are more contained than others. And that allowing the process of more people getting back to their homes slowly underway. However, firefighters say the moment of truth is here and the pain begins now.
It's important for everyone to realize that this is a time when some people will realize they no longer have homes, that they are going to be experiencing considerable losses. So it is always important, and we urge you to look out for your neighbors, care for your neighbors, and be patient with one another as we go through this process of repopulating areas and getting back in for reentry.
A lot of compassion is going to be needed now. National Guard troops are scheduled to arrive by the end of the week to help fight the fire. Now, get the scope of this. 3 million gallons of retardant have been dropped in that area in the LNU complex fire since it started last week. The fire is not over, so there are still difficult times ahead. Now, coming up at 5, I'm going to talk to a winery owner, a vintner, who has a small vineyard in Napa Valley. And this is not the first time he's gone on a go-around with fire. What he's learned, what he lost, and what he thinks is going to happen next, what his plans of the future are next. We're going to take you there.
We will see it ahead at 5 o'clock. Thanks, Jessica.
We want to turn now to our air quality. Not really good today. This is a live look at Walnut Creek. You can see a lot of smoke and hazy skies. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Jeff Ranieri. And Jeff, I went to bed last night in the green zone. Like I opened my windows, and this morning I was like, it turned smoky on the peninsula. And usually it's better there. It was pretty bad today.
Well, it really all has to do with the fire activity. Are they seeing flare-ups, and did the foggy breeze die down for a little bit? We still had some improvements for a few spots today, but it really is going to be this touch-and-go situation until we get full containment of these fires. So as we start off right now with a look at the conditions on the fire lines, we have seen some slightly cooler temperatures today. Wind gusts also not that strong, only 10 to 20 miles per hour. So up here into the North Bay, you can see currently 91 degrees. Tomorrow 91, wind gusts of 20. Down here to the South Bay, we have 87 tomorrow on the SCU Lightning Complex and wind gusts of 10 to 20. And then over to the fire here in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Great news here today, as there has been no large fire growth in the past 12 hours. So they are getting some sort of headway on this. And tomorrow we're looking at 84 degrees, winds on average out of the northwest at 7, gusts up to 20. So what about the air quality? Let's take you to that right now. We've got the live sky camera here in San Francisco, and you can see blue sky here with also some fog way back towards the distance. And then take a look at those air quality numbers, and you'll see in San Francisco we're at 60, which is moderate. Oakland 80, Palo Alto 150, and Mill Valley at 30. So there is some good to moderate air quality, but you got to get close to the bay and the coast to find that. We'll talk more about the air quality for tomorrow and where it will be best. I'll have another update in about 15 minutes.
We will see you shortly. Thanks, Jeff. I just got a text alert about 15 minutes ago. The evacuation warning has been lifted in the Palo Alto Hills. These warnings and orders are changing by the hour. Let's bring in Chris Kamura with an update now. I look at my phone, and every time ping, there's something there. Every day there's something going on.
I can map it for you right now. This time yesterday we had red evacuation orders and a swath of yellow evacuation warnings up here. The waypoints on this map: Los Altos here, Cupertino, Saratoga, Los Gatos, Scotts Valley. But that yellow is now gone. Now I can remove real quick here the evacuation areas and show you a 24-hour satellite sensor of the fires, and look at what we have. Concentrated small areas of the fires. What a change this is from 1, 2, and 3 days ago when we saw these orange and yellow dots all over the place. The other major developments today are up to the north. Let's go to the county of Sonoma, and here we have a massive area that has just been reduced away from evacuation warnings to allowing people to go home. I mapped it out here, and it tells me that's 231 square miles roughly where we're now in the clear. People should still pay attention, but nonetheless, on the base map here from the county, it's green. Again, we have the thermal sensors here in red showing us where the fire is in the LNU Lightning Complex fire, and you can see the concentrations to the north and to the south. This southerly line here isn't quite as dotted in red as we had seen previously, and perhaps that's what's given firefighters the confidence to allow people in this region here closer to the Pacific, but then down to the south near Santa Rosa, up near Healdsburg along Dry Creek Road to return to their homes. However, we do still have the evacuation warning in place up here to the north, as well as these evacuation orders for the region in red. If you want to keep up to date on the evacuation orders in real time, we invite you to visit our website, nbcbayarea.com/evacuations. Our digital team is adding all of the latest developments just as soon as Raj gets the text messages.
we are updating everywhere we can. Oh, they are keeping an eye on the flames like all of us are. Up next, why these fires come at a very challenging time for our local wineries.
Plus, back home, where there are some evacuees arrived back in the neighborhoods they ran away from days ago. Now to the largest group of fires, the SCU complex burning in Santa Clara, Alameda, and Contra Costa counties. After days of advancing flames and fear, some good news for people on the fire's southern end in Morgan Hill. They're heading back home. NBC Bay Area's Damian Trio is live in Morgan Hill, where everyone is aware that things could still change in an instant. Damian.
That's right, Janelle. That's why there is still a checkpoint here in the foothills of Morgan Hill to make sure that only the residents are able to get back in. But today, for many of them, it was an emotional homecoming. PG&E crews spent the day reactivating the gas lines for families returning from evacuating in Morgan Hill.
Yeah, a few.
The Baumhold family says they didn't know if they would have a home to return to when they packed up and left for days.
That you cannot tell anybody to or explain how it is to say goodbye to your house, look in the rearview mirror and drive off. It's sad.
The SCU fire has burned more than 360,000 acres across 7 counties. On Sunday, police ordered those in the eastern hills of Morgan Hill to get out, as it appeared the fire was headed into town.
We definitely were erring on the side of caution. We wanted to make sure that there was no chance that any lives would be lost if the fire became larger or moved closer.
The city says the weather helped push the fire southeast, away from homes.
Oh, we were so happy. I mean, we were staying with family, which was great, but we were very happy to be home.
Police and firefighters will remain on alert over the next few days in case the weather makes another change. The skies were clearer this morning, but it's a little smoky again here in Morgan Hill. I'm told that CAL FIRE started a backfire over by Henry Cole Park to create a bigger fire break and give these folks a better chance. We're live in Morgan Hill. I'm Damian Trujillo, NBC Bay Area News.
Damian, thank you. Now, we seem to go through this every year. Our wineries under a serious threat. Flames are inching closer to several vineyards. John Hawley owns Hawley Wine in Healdsburg. He took this video of air tankers making drops. You see it right there, that red retardant. He says where his property is gives him a bird's eye view of the firefight.
Just like a war zone up there. You could see, big flames coming up here and flames coming up there, and it was coming up the canyon, up Peony Creek, and the wind was directing it our way, and it was pretty frightening.
We are crossing our fingers for them. Hawley says these fires come at a tough time for a lot of people in the business. It's harvest season right about now, and these wineries are also dealing with the fallout from the ongoing pandemic.
Seems like the weather has been more favorable for the firefighters. Let's get a check of our forecast with Jeff Ranieri. Jeff.
Yes, we have been really lucky with the wind over the past 5 days or so, and really no major gusts today, so that does help the firefighters out, albeit it's making the air stagnant in some locations while others are beginning to clear out. So what I wanted to give you a view of right now is a smoke model, and this takes a look at how the smoke has been blowing through the Bay Area and really how things just have been developing. And you can see on this map the more orange to red color, that's the unhealthy levels of smoke. And you can see overall, we did see a lot of this push down into the Central Valley right over here. But there was a lot of smoke continuing to linger right here through the East Bay, down here to the Santa Cruz Mountains as well. These are really the two big culprits that are helping to pollute a lot of the immediate Bay Area. And that's why it's been so tough to clear out. Now, we did have the fog at the coastline. If you're anywhere near San Francisco or the beaches, this is where we had the biggest headway today, and my forecast for tomorrow on that air quality does have some big improvements here for us at the immediate coastline for the beaches. Otherwise, everybody else really remains unhealthy, and we're not going to see these numbers at least largely change until we get even more containment on the fire lines. But again, near San Francisco and the beaches, it is going to be quite a bit better for us. Tomorrow's forecast, we are in the 80s here, 84 in San Jose, 89 in Livermore, a few isolated 90s down near Morgan Hill, up to Napa 86. Clear Lake 93, and over to the coastline we'll be in the 60s here from San Francisco to Half Moon Bay. Now, what about the wind forecast as we look ahead? I wanted to give you a general view of how the wind's going to be playing out as we head through the next 4 days, and you can see on Wednesday, not that gusty, 15 to 25 miles per hour. Thursday, 10 to 20. Friday, 10 to 20. And Saturday, 10 to 20 as well. So this overall has been helping the firefighters. We're going to take a close look at the fire lines, the forecast again for the fire forecast, and we'll take a look at the 7-day forecast. I'll have details on that in about 25 minutes.
All right, we'll see you shortly, Jeff. Thanks. Up next here on the special edition of our 4 o'clock newscast, Leaving Everything Behind, an evacuee shares her emotional journey and the struggles her family are still facing right now. These are anxious times for families who are forced to evacuate and still don't know if their homes remain standing. Veronica Foster lives in Boulder Creek, and her home is about 1 mile from the fire lines. She tells us when the fires first started, not that many firefighters responded because they were dealing with so many fires burning across the state. But when crews from Southern California started to show up, she became emotional.
Los Angeles is here.
Oh my God, LA's here. Thank God.
Thank God, she says. Foster had to evacuate her home last week, taking only a few important items and her pets. She and her husband then went to stay with a friend not too far away on Bear Creek Road. She says she watched from above as the flames below grew day by day.
It was like a movie. We were watching the fire just roar in, and you could hear propane tanks blowing up, and we weren't sure if it were trees blowing up, but it sounded like bombs were going off. It was, I can't even describe it. It's just, you're just hearing this massive force of the elements come in and just, create this devastating sounds that sound like warfare. And then you're just watching this orange glow just climb over the mountain.
This is all happening right in her community. Eventually, they had to evacuate even their friend's home. So far, no word on the condition of her own house, but she says she is not giving up hope.
We hope it's still standing. Well, the Woodward fire keeps growing in the Point Reyes National Seashore in Marin County. People living on Silver Hills Road, Fox Drive, and Norn Way, south of Inverness Park, they need to evacuate immediately. County officials issued the first mandatory evacuation order last night for West Marin. 1,600 homes and businesses have been under an evacuation warning for several days, but now this is an order. Right now, more than 5,700 acres have burned. It's just 5% contained. Animals are also feeling the effects of these wildfires. Napa County deputies posted this video of a pig. We're not sure if the owner's home is evacuated, where the owners are, but deputies realized it needed a big cool down. And check out Keith, the therapy dog. He works with Marin County firefighters. He's helping to provide comfort for crews working overtime.
I like Keith. I also like the pig.
It's Kareth. It's a girl. It's
Kareth.
The script said Keith, but I just realized it's Kareth. Good job, Kareth.
Whatever. We love it, Kareth.
Yes.
We do like that dog and that pig. Up next at 4:30, they can't teach, but that doesn't mean that they're not working. Teachers in Santa Cruz, how they're helping their community right now.
Plus, will there be fans in the stands at Levi Stadium this season? With the 49ers just announced about their first game just a few weeks away. Right now at 4:30, firefighters along miles and miles of fire lines across Northern California are dug in for the firefight. This is some evacuees made their way back home today. Now, these fires have been raging for more than a week now, but some encouraging news tonight. Containment is inching up a bit.
Yeah, that is good news. Today, some people living along the Sonoma coast also allowed back home. Containment in the North Bay has grown to 27%. Further south, along the San Mateo and Santa Cruz County coasts, the fog and cooler temperatures really helping us, allowing firefighters to get containment up to 17%. Remember, just a couple of days ago, we were at 5% and 0%. The SCU complex in the East Bay is the largest at nearly 364,000 acres. The LNU there in the North Bay, the deadliest so far and most destructive. Sadly, 5 people have died, 354,000 acres burned.
There's a very unique shelter set up in Santa Cruz for fire evacuees. The Santa Cruz City School District opened a high school gym for anyone in need, but now has also opened up all its school facilities as shelters specifically for teachers and staff, allowing them to basically live in their own classrooms. NBC Bay Area's Robert Honda joins us to show us what it all looks like. And Robert, it's nice for them to have this option as a backup.
That's right. We are here at Harbor High School in Santa Cruz, which is technically closed right now because of the fires. But as you can see, they have set up a shelter for evacuees, and there is a special arrangement for district teachers and staff who have nowhere else to go. For them, this is work and home right now. Lindsay is the Harbor High Drama Department technical supervisor, and he spends a lot of time at the Kathy Warner Theater. But now he lives here. After being evacuated from his home due to the fires, he's taking advantage of the Santa Cruz City Schools offer to teachers and staff to make his own facility a temporary home for him and his cat Jinx.
It's a relief because, as you mentioned, it is someplace that I do know and I know well, and I do feel comfortable at. It's a guaranteed space.
Right outside the theater, the district and county have set up the gym for other non-district evacuees.
I think it's amazing. I think our district has done amazing work very quickly to make sure that the members of our community are taken care of.
You have a place to go and kind of recollect yourself, and they take a shower if you need to, and they have food and stuff here, so that's nice. And I can have my dog.
For now, Lindsay is trying to make his theater feel like home.
Set up a laptop in the back, watch movies, and keep the cat with me. Mostly it's the cat.
Mm-hmm. That makes it feel like home?
Yes. As irritating as she can be sometimes. No, I'm kidding.
You do have a lot of space.
I do definitely have a lot of space.
It is definitely a generous gesture by the district, and the teachers are also giving back, leaving their classroom homes to volunteer at this more traditional shelter. Live in Santa Cruz, Robert Honda, NBC Bay Area News.
That's a very nice story. Thank you, Robert. Let's bring in Jeff Ranieri now. Jeff, it just seems so confusing on the peninsula where I am. It just seems to be changing like every 3 hours in terms of the air quality. Sometimes it's okay, and then it gets really cruddy again.
Yeah, and that's just really based on the foggy breeze at the ocean. When we see that foggy breeze pick up, we start to see things clear out, and then when that foggy breeze dies down, well, the air gets stagnant again, and that's really the big issue that a lot of us have been dealing with. Right now, overall, though, we are starting to see some improvements, especially around the bay. I want to start off with another look at the fire zones and what we're dealing with right now, and you can see up here to the North Bay, we're at 91 degrees. Winds are not all that gusty out of the southwest at 16 miles per hour. Down to the South Bay, we're looking at 89 degrees and temperatures dropping to 87 tomorrow. And then over to the Santa Cruz Mountains, we have seen things improve. 80 degrees today, 84 tomorrow. And there's really been no major growth on the fire lines down in the Santa Cruz Mountains over the past 12 hours, and that has helped firefighters. Again, those weather conditions. So the air quality, we have had the fog building at the immediate coastline, and that definitely has helped. You can see in San Francisco, we're in that yellow color. That's considered moderate. Oakland also moderate. But look at Mill Valley. It is good. It's just all the way that breeze is blowing in, really helping to clear out that zone. But notice Concord, Livermore, San Jose, those are still in the red, which is unhealthy. It's going to take us a while to see that really clear out. We need these fires to get some higher containment numbers before I think everybody across the Bay Area would be happy with that air quality. But one thing I can tell you is every single night, as long as we have that fog pattern going, we should start to see things get a little bit better, at least for the evening hours and the morning. And then in the afternoon, that's when things will kind of, get a little bit still and also stagnant. I'll be back in probably about 20 minutes with a look at the full forecast.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll see you shortly. Now, if you're allowed to go home and hopefully your home isn't damaged, there's still some things you need to know. We want to help. Let's bring in Chris Kimura. I know, Chris, you and your team checked with firefighters for some expert guidance here. I even asked you a few minutes ago, what do you mean? If your home's okay, isn't that okay? Can't you just walk in?
You can't just rush right in. No, this is a valuable reminder for everyone. So let's walk through this together step by step. When an evacuation order is lifted, it's important you just don't march right into the house. CAL FIRE says proceed with caution. Start with your driveway. Remove any debris. If you see any down power lines, call 911 immediately. Next, look up. See if there are any broken or dangling tree limbs. That's a danger potentially there, especially if you think they're going to fall. After that, you can walk around the house. You'll be looking for hot embers under the house, in decks and vents, gutters, and the roof, anywhere they could start a new fire. Now, when you go inside, again, proceed with caution. Smell for natural gas or any other unusual odor. And use a battery-powered flashlight to check every room before you turn your lights or appliances on. And fair warning, each time CAL FIRE's lifted an evacuation order, it's cautioned that homeowners might find that their utilities are actually turned off. Yeah, so if your gas was shut off, PG&E says it could take time to restore. It says its representatives are going to go door to door. They're going to close the gas meters before they repressurize the pipelines. After that, PG&E says it's going to go door to door again to relight pilots. And here's a very important note. You have to be home. PG&E says that if you're not home, they're not going to do the work. And what they're going to do instead is they're going to leave a notice with a number to call to schedule a return visit. That number is right there, 800-743-5000. We're going to leave it up while I remind you this. PG&E says don't mess with your gas line yourself. For safety reasons, I'm going to quote him here. For safety reasons, customers should not attempt to restore gas service on their own. Only a qualified utility service person with special training and equipment can do this safely. All right, what about the food in your refrigerator? I know there's a lot of money invested in the food in the refrigerator. Everybody spends a ton on food, especially these days. Well, here's what the USDA says. If the refrigerator is still at 40 degrees or colder, the food is safe. But foods held at a temperature above 40 degrees for more than 2 hours should not be consumed. We have a lot more information about wildfire. We've got a whole web page devoted to helping you out. It's NBCBayArea.com/wildfire help. All this information and a ton more. Raj, over to you.
Okay, good information. You can head to our website, NBCBayArea.com, for the latest info on these fires. That includes some very detailed and helpful maps about the evacuations, the orders or the warnings. You can also check out the perimeter of each of these fire complexes.
Switching gears now, night 2 of the Republican National Convention is just a couple of hours away. Tonight, First Lady Melania Trump will be speaking. There will also be a controversial appearance by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo from Jerusalem. The opening night of the convention, mixing uplifting messages with apocalyptic warnings about America under Democratic leadership. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from the White House.
We come together
tonight at the Republican National Convention, the party hoping to build on night 1's praise for President Trump and blistering criticism of Democrats.
Joe Biden is basically the Loch Ness Monster of the swamp.
First Lady Melania Trump headlining tonight's program from the Rose Garden, breaking precedent by using the White House as a campaign backdrop.
This is their home. It's the people's house, but it's also their home.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also speaking tonight and drawing criticism for mixing politics with diplomacy, taping his convention speech while on an official trip to Jerusalem. That location sending a clear message to supporters of Israel on behalf of President Trump.
He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Promise made, promise kept.
Last night's program often veering toward apocalyptic rhetoric against Democrats.
They want to enslave you to the weak, dependent, liberal victim ideology to the point that you will not recognize this country or yourself.
That mixed with a more uplifting tone from speakers like Senator Tim Scott and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, highlighting diversity in the GOP.
I was a brown girl in a black and white world. In much of the Democratic Party, it's now fashionable to say that America is racist. That is a lie.
Republicans trying to warm up undecided voters while firing up their base. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
A big night ahead of us. Now, all these major stories continue to play out this week. There's also some encouraging news and a trend when it comes to the pandemic. State health officials say 110,000 tests have been given in the last 24 hours. The state positivity rate has dropped to 5.7%, over the past 7 days. These numbers continue a 2-month downward trend.
These are numbers that continue to show stabilization of COVID-19 transmission in our communities, and its impact on our hospitals is improving.
Dr. Galley says despite the downward trend in positive cases, people must continue to follow distancing rules and try to stay at home as much as possible.
Still on the state watch list, and now some San Francisco business owners say they're almost out of time and precariously close to being forced to close their doors for good. So they protested in front of City Hall today asking for help. Our business and tech reporter Scott Budman has their story.
CrossFit Golden Gate is trying to keep San Franciscans in shape.
So people should welcome us, not be criticizing us.
But after months of being unable to open for business here, the owner says debts are piling up.
I'm on the hook for over $10,000 a month in rent. I am now over $50,000 in debt to my landlord, which at some point I technically am supposed to pay back. When that day comes, it's going to be a big problem.
I'm here because I'm getting fatter every day, and it's terrible.
Which led to this protest outside of City Hall today. Small businesses like Salon Skin on Market say they're precariously close to going out of business, and they need help from politicians.
I want them to come out with a plan and a protocol that says if you can hit all of these standards, you've got the space and the ventilation and you've got masks and signage and you can keep social distancing, then you're considered low risk and you get to open.
Some officials showed up to say they're sympathetic to the plight of small businesses.
I don't think we should be waiting till Gavin Newsom announces that we're off the watch list to give anybody any kind of ability to prepare for the future.
The business owners tell us if they have to stay closed, they'd like some sort of rent forgiveness or a zero-interest loan to stay afloat. Meanwhile, we reached out to the city and its Department of Public Health for comment, but did not hear back. In San Francisco, Scott Budman, NBC, Bay Area News.
Well, no surprises here. Today, the 49ers announcing no fans at Levi's Stadium for their first game. However, they did leave the door open for games later in the year. The season kicks off just a few weeks from now, September 13th in Santa Clara against the Cardinals. In a statement, the organization thanked the fans for their patience as they manage this unprecedented situation. The 49ers are preparing, if allowed by the county and the state, to have a limited amount of fans for games perhaps beginning in October or November.
Okay, let's get a check for forecast. You know, Jeff, temperatures pretty consistent and the smoke's just sticking around.
It really is. We are going to see some slight improvements tomorrow. We'll talk more about that air quality. We'll get you all squared away and that 7-day forecast, a look at the fire lines, everything in about 7 minutes.
And while we're dealing with fires, a hurricane is headed for Texas. We're going to give you an update on Hurricane Laura's path. That's next. Squaw Valley is headed for a name change that some say is a long time coming. The word squaw is considered a derogatory term for Native American women. The Lake Tahoe resort gained international recognition when the resort hosted the 1960 Winter Olympics. The resort says it plans to announce the new name early next year, and the name change will happen after the 2021 winter season wraps up. One possible replacement being floated around, Olympic Valley. Google has a new top lawyer. Halima Delane Prado is the Mountain View-based company's new general counsel. She's a 14-year Google veteran who used to be in charge of the product legal team. The move comes at a time where the search giant is fending off multiple antitrust investigations around the world. The company has also been rocked by complaints from employees who say it's failed to take allegations of racism and sexism seriously enough.
A lot of problems in Wisconsin. There's now a state of emergency there. This comes after a second night of protests after a police officer shot a black man. In the past 48 hours, protesters have damaged buildings, clashed with police, and clashed with each other. The shooting happened Sunday. Officers got into a struggle with Jacob Blake. You see his photo there, and then shot him in the back multiple times. The family says he's paralyzed now from the waist down. Witnesses posted video online which sparked outrage.
It is going to take a miracle for Jacob Blake Jr. to ever walk again.
Police released few details so far, only that officers were responding to a domestic incident that involved a shooting. The Justice Department will assist in the state investigation.
Across the Gulf Coast, the rush is on. People in Louisiana and Texas are preparing for what could be a direct hit from a major hurricane. Tonight, Laura is gaining strength after impacting Cuba, now projected to make landfall near the Louisiana-Texas border Wednesday night as a Category 3 storm. NBC's Chris Pallone has more.
In Lake Charles, Louisiana, Sean Wilson is spending the final hours before Laura hits getting his business ready.
We just better be prepared than not be prepared.
More than 500,000 people are under mandatory evacuation orders across the region, unsure whether Laura's punch will come from wind or rain or both.
Here, I think the wind, yeah. But right by the lake, you never know. Depends on how long it sits on us.
The escape complicated somewhat by COVID-19.
It's time to go.
Capacity in shelters and on buses limited to maintain social distancing. While officials are concerned about downed trees and power lines as Laura comes ashore, the storm surge is also a concern. Forecast to possibly reach 13 feet in some areas. In Texas, the governor warns time is running out.
You need to be doing all you can to make sure that you take the action that needs to be taken to protect your life.
Laura killed at least 23 people in the Caribbean and soaked Cuba, her last stop before reaching the U.S.
As the storm comes in, officials will keep an eye on waterways like the Vermilion River here in Lafayette. The National Guard has pre-positioned high water trucks in case rescues become necessary. In Lafayette, Louisiana, Chris Pallone, NBC News.
And so 2020 continues. Jeff Ranieri back with us. How serious now? What are they dealing with there in terms of the timetable in that part of the country, Jeff?
Well, really, anybody in the path of it that lives on the immediate coastline at the beaches, if you have friends or family there, that's going to be the most critical area with the storm surge because there's just no way to avoid that. So we're going to have more on that, of course, at NBCBayArea.com. Back here at home, we have had some improvements in the air quality at times. Other times, the smoke kind of won out today, and it all has everything to do with the ocean breeze and the fog. Now, right now, during the evening hours, we usually see that typical sea breeze beginning to pick up and bring in more additional fog, and that's what's happening right now. So if you step out the door and take a look, you're going to notice the air quality is starting to get a little bit better for a few of you. You can see here in San Francisco right now that fog is pretty thick, rolling in really strong, even some drizzle tonight. Let's take you back to the Tri-Valley, and this view was actually a lot worse about an hour ago, but with that foggy breeze beginning to filter in, it's helping just a little bit out here in the Tri-Valley. Now, tomorrow's forecast, I've updated this a little bit more to kind of segment out the coast and the beaches. And what you'll notice is the coast and the beaches is expected to be in the good, the healthy air because of that sea breeze. Everyone else is really going to fluctuate in and out of that unhealthy zone. So you have to remember, these simple tips. We go over these all the time, but let me do some work for you. Limit your outdoor exposure. Put your car AC on recirculate. And let me show you what that looks like. If you're not sure about the recirculate button, it is that button on your car, the AC with the little arrow on it, and basically that just keeps the nice fresh air in the car cabin continuing to recirculate around, and you're not breathing in that smoke. Now, other things to do, stay hydrated. Also, don't forget those pets, bring them inside too. Okay, that's the latest on the air quality. Let's bring it to the fires. We have the one in the North Bay, South Bay, also the Santa Cruz Mountains, and it continues to look pretty good here. Now, not extremely hot. We're at 91 tomorrow, wind gusts of 10 to 20. We've seen a little bit of activity there on the northern side of the fire today. Down here to the South Bay, there was only a couple of hot spots on the northern flank, also on the southern flank. Tomorrow, 88 degrees and wind gusts of 20. Best news today came from the Santa Cruz Mountains and our fire here. There has not been any major growth in the past 12 hours based on current numbers. Tomorrow, 82, wind gusts of 20. So that is definitely some better news for the Santa Cruz Mountains. Temperatures as we move through tomorrow, even with a little bit of morning fog, I do think we'll warm up for the inland valleys with some upper 80s to about 90. Have you had 88 in Concord, 89 Livermore, 90 down to Morgan Hill. Go closer to the bay. You could see those numbers drop. 84 in San Jose, 70s Oakland, Palo Alto, and there you go, your 60s in San Francisco and Half Moon Bay. My extended forecast continues with decreasing chances of dry lightning. 25% chance tomorrow, 20% chance on Thursday, 60s in San Francisco through Sunday. And for the inland valleys, we'll stay with this trend of 90s as we head through the next 7-day forecast. So once we get those containment numbers up to about 50% or higher, I definitely think we're going to see a lot more marked changes in the air quality. I can tell you guys right now in the East Bay, I can actually see the sun, and you get a little bit of a view beyond a half a mile. So it's getting a little bit better, at least for the evenings right now.
That's good news for you. But a spare the air alert in effect through Friday now at the earliest. Okay. We all got to hang in there. Thanks, Jeff.
Hallelujah. Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Up next here at 4 o'clock, how can we help our neighbors and our friends? How Facebook is making it easy and safe to donate to fire victims.
NBC Bay Area Sky Ranger over the CZU complex fire that's burning currently in the Santa Cruz Mountains in both Santa Cruz County and San Mateo County. Right now, here are the latest number. Fortunately, it only grew by 1,000 or 2,000 acres overnight, so it's about 79,000 acres. Containment also up 17% contained. One person has died, but 7 people remain missing, and 330 structures destroyed. At this time, 77,000 people are under evacuation orders. The fog and cooler temperatures are helping firefighters on the fire lines, but this fire is still generating a lot of smoke. We'll have another live report coming up at 5.
And Janelle, even yesterday, CAL FIRE was very encouraged about that fire in terms of gaining containment. Well, Facebook wants to do its part to help through the situation. Today, the company launching a fundraiser. It will match up to $500,000. You're encouraged to donate via Facebook to the American Red Cross. At last check, nearly $200,000 has already been donated. So this would be very helpful to so many of our community members who have either lost property or damaged property, who have been evacuated from their homes.
We will have live team coverage of all the 3 major complex fires burning in the Bay Area coming up at 5.
Stay with us. We'll see you in a few minutes.
It was like a movie. We were watching the fire just roar in. You're just hearing this massive force of the elements come in.
When you're in it, you're fighting it. You're not going to give up.
You cannot explain how it is to say goodbye to your house, look in the rearview mirror, and drive off. It's sad.
The threat tonight remains very real. Several major fires continue to roar across the Bay Area. More evacuations ordered for some communities, while other orders and warnings are being lifted. The news at 5 starts right now. Good Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. I'm Janelle Wang.
And I'm Raj Mathai. We were hoping for some relief from all the smoke, but our air quality isn't getting much better, at least not yet. Jessica Aguirre is also with us.
Well, Raj and Janelle, there is progress in the LNU fire and the smoke is starting to clear. So for vintners, that means it's time to assess their losses. Coming up, I'm going to take you to Napa Valley and I'm going to introduce you to one winemaker who is looking at his losses and turning them into gains. And he's trying to take that fire and turn it into a type of smoke that's helpful for a lot of people.
It's impacting a lot of wineries. Thank you, Jess. We'll see you soon. And we start with the live look now from our NBC Bay Area Sky Ranger, similar to what we've seen for more than a week now, except things are getting better. This is a live look over the CZU complex fire. This was burning along the coast in Santa Cruz and San Mateo counties. And Janelle, even yesterday, the firefighters were so encouraged for a couple of big reasons. The weather has been helping us, and also they've gotten many more firefighters on the front lines. Yesterday, they said they had additional 600 firefighters helping the cause here.
Yeah, that's good news because the fire only grew about 1,000 or 2,000 acres overnight. The fog and cooler temperatures really help crews make progress. Now, while this fire continues to grow, so does containment. It's up to 17% now. We're going to take a closer look at this fire in just a few minutes. We're going to go to the North Bay now, where the largest of the 3 Bay Area fires is raging tonight. Slowly but surely, crews battling the LNU Lightning Complex fire, they're making progress. Some evacuation orders being lifted, which means some people are allowed to return home. Now, here's where the fire stands right now. More than 350,000 acres have burned. Containment is up to 27%. Nearly 1,000 homes and other structures, though, have been destroyed. And tonight, some of the victims are getting a first-hand look at what's left. Now, this fire also the deadliest. 5 people have died, and today we've learned that one of the victims was a disabled man. NBC Bay Area's Jody Hernandez joins us live from Vacaville, where she spoke to those who knew him and now remember him. Jody.
That's right, Janelle. James Leon Bone lived in the English Hills area of rural Vacaville all of his life. We are told he was mentally and visually challenged. He could barely see. He didn't have a phone. He didn't drive. And sadly, he did not survive.
He deserved a life, and he deserved to know that he was loved.
Stephanie Mantle is beside herself, thinking about her neighbor who lost his life when the LNU complex fire blew through rural Vacaville. James Leon Bone was well known in the area. His neighbors say he lived in a home without running water or electricity and was almost completely blind.
He could feel and count like steps and certain things to get his way around, because he used to walk from his house, English Hills, to town.
He was probably taken by complete surprise. He was, like I say, almost totally blind.
Daniel Bone is one of his only relatives. He says his cousin has lived on the property all his life and refused to move when his parents died.
He was happy there, and that's the only place he wanted to be.
He was loved and he was a good person. He was different from us, but he surely didn't deserve to die like that.
Mantle says she understands first responders were stretched thin and couldn't get to everyone as neighbors scrambled to escape. She says she was one of many who used to give her neighbor rides into town and help him out. She says Vacaville has lost a man who mattered.
His life mattered. And that's really what it is, that his life mattered. We can just, wish him some peace.
Now, James Leon Bone has not yet been positively identified by the coroner's office, but his family says that the sheriff's department came to their house 2 days ago and notified them that remains were found on his property. Everyone here says the 64-year-old will be greatly missed. Reporting live in Solano County, I'm Jody Hernandez, NBC Bay Area News.
Our hearts go out to those families. Thank you, Jody. We've been doing this now for more than a week. We know where these fires are, but where are the actual hot spots as of right now, today? Let's look at the LNU fire where Jody Hernandez was reporting from. It's the biggest one. It's really burning in 2 areas. You got here in the west in Sonoma County, and then on the other side where Napa County is. As of this morning, the hot spots were north of Guerneville. So we are going Guerneville and then Here we are, north of Guerneville and then over to Healdsburg. The other areas in Napa, Solano, and Lake and Yolo counties, hotspots as of today, north of Calistoga and around Lake Berryessa. Let's move down to the SCU fire. It spans several counties as well, including Alameda and Santa Clara counties. This fire is burning mostly in remote areas, but it's destroyed at least 18 homes and other structures. It's 15% contained. That's good news, but there are hotspots east of Fremont and Milpitas, as well as east of Morgan Hill. Finally, the CZU fire in San Mateo and Santa Cruz counties. Hotspots continue to threaten the communities of Boulder Creek, Bonnie Doon, and Ben Lomond. There are also hotspots southeast of Pescadero. Janelle.
Yeah, Raj, here's some more information on the CZU complex fire. Tonight, more than 77,000 people are out of their homes and under mandatory evacuation orders. Now, we're expecting an update on this fire in just about 1 hour. This is the latest numbers that we have right now. Flames have scorched 79,000 acres, destroyed 330 structures. The fire is 17% contained. This fire also deadly, killing 1 person. 7 others remain missing. NBC Bay Area's Marianne Favreau is in Scotts Valley tonight with the latest on the fight to save lives and save homes. Marianne.
Well, James Hagan of Brookdale saw news reports showing his neighbor's house on fire, but he had no idea what had happened to his own home, and he still wasn't allowed back in. So today he asked if we could go check on his home for him. An inferno descending on Clear Creek Road above the Brookdale Lodge. This is the video James Hagan watched on TV. It showed a neighbor's home burning and left him wondering what happened to his home.
That's the worst part of this whole thing, is not knowing what's happening with your property.
Because we're allowed to be much closer to the fire lines, he asked us to check on his home. What we found was devastation. Multiple houses gone, including Hagan's hillside home.
20 years of my time that I spent building my house and property into what it was, and just remembering how beautiful it was.
The fire destroyed his son's car and every inch of the 1,500 square foot home. This demonstrates the randomness of the fire. This home was destroyed, yet the one behind it just a few yards away was spared. Hagan says his family escaped with just a few items.
Computers, because they have pictures on them and stuff like that, and got my money and the cats and a couple little heirlooms.
Hagan says he remembers the 58 steps he climbed every day to reach his front door and the graduation party he hosted for his daughter here. But as he mourns the loss of his home, he is also grateful for what he didn't lose.
The cats are out, everybody's alive, and that's what really matters. That's the important thing.
And he's relieved to finally have answers.
I'm fortunate right now that you were able to let us know, because I bet there's thousands of people right now wondering what happened to their house.
Fortunately, James says he has insurance and he does plan to rebuild. Now, this is not the first time that his family has been displaced. About 7 years ago, a huge tree fell in their living room and they had to move out for 6 months. Reporting live in Scotts Valley, Marianne Favreau, NBC Bay Area News.
Marianne, thank you. I know you and a lot of our reporters are trying to listen through social media or email, trying to help as many people as possible to identify their homes to see if their homes are damaged or not. Now, this is the Woodward fire. It keeps growing near Point Reyes in Marin County. People living on Silver Hills Road, Fox Drive, and Norin Way, south of Inverness Park, need to leave immediately. County officials issued the first mandatory evacuation order last night for West Marin. 1,600 homes and businesses have been under evacuation warnings now for several days. Right now, more than 5,700 acres have burned there. It's just 5% contained. Let's bring in Chris Kamura, who's keeping a close eye on these evacuation orders and warnings across the Bay Area. What do you got for us? Because we know things are changing, and that map has been magical for us here.
Yeah, let's talk about Woodward here. So the waypoints on this map, we have Mill Valley down here, Tiburon, San Quentin. Here are the evacuation warnings and orders that Raj was just talking about. Let me add on the satellite thermal hotspots and fire activity, and you can see those red dots indicate the fire there. We can also map out the perimeter of the fire from CAL FIRE. Let's zoom in. We'll look at the evacuation order zone. This is what Raj was was just talking about in here. We'll zoom out just a little bit more so you can see the order and then the warning, the border between the two. Inverness Park right here, just to the southwest of Point Reyes Station. We'll be watching these in real time. We have an updated list on our website, NBCBayArea.com/evacuations, Raj.
Yeah, and that's good. We should reiterate that because I just got an alert about 90 minutes ago from the peninsula in Palo Alto Hills about the evacuation warning being called off there. We are keeping track of all the latest orders and warnings, including those helpful maps detailing the evacuations. You can see them at NBCBayArea.com.
Okay, no relief in sight. You're looking at our live traffic cameras across the Bay Area. You can still see it and smell it in some areas. Smoke from the wildfires still impacting our air quality. A spare the air alert, which was supposed to expire tomorrow, now extended through at least Friday. Chief Meteorologist Jeff Winery joins us now with more. And Jeff, I know you found some relief in the East Bay, but other areas like the peninsula pretty much socked in with smoke today.
Yeah, it's just such a split picture right now because we have the fog at the coastline and that foggy breeze is helping to clear out the beaches, but it has to go somewhere. So it is getting trapped in other parts of the Bay Area. So really, depending on where you are, it's either good or extremely bad. So I wanted to give you this view right now of what we're dealing with. And you can see in San Francisco, we have the foggy evening sea breeze starting to return. And you'll be able to see on this live sky camera view that fog is rolling in pretty thick right now. And look at these improvements. Mill Valley, San Francisco, Oakland, all with good air quality as of the past 30 minutes. Concord now dropping to 85, which is moderate. Napa dropping to 133. Still unhealthy there, and also unhealthy for Livermore and San Jose, as you were just so close to that large fire burning in the hills. It's hard for you to really see any relief. We've seen a little bit of a change here in Palo Alto, now dropping to the moderate at 73. We have those 3 fires burning. What I can tell you overall on this right now is that temperatures will stay pretty good here for firefighters tomorrow. Plenty of 80s to low 90s and no extreme wind. We'll take you down to the fire lines. We'll get you a real close look at all of this coming up in about 8 minutes.
Okay, Jeff, we'll see you shortly. Now, sometimes first responders need rescuing too. This weekend, we showed you this video in Marin County of Marin County firefighters being rescued during the Woodward fire. Turns out the help came from a Sonoma County helicopter crew. Today, our own Lily Tan talked to the deputy who literally dropped in to save them.
2 lives on the line.
This was one of those days where it was life and death.
Sonoma County Sheriff's Tactical Flight Officer Chris Haas got the call from a dispatcher. 2 Marin County firefighters were trapped in the Woodward fire, south of Point Reyes, with fire less than a football field away.
I could hear the emotion and rest in her voice.
Within minutes, Deputy Haas and pilot Paul Bradley were inside the department's helicopter, Henry 1, and facing gusting fire winds.
The winds really intensified as we were kind of descending into that area.
Then more problems. The location was incorrect, and they spotted the wall of fire.
It looked scary close. I think we estimated that it was about 75 yards away.
The helicopter's spotlight was also out, meaning dropping in near darkness.
And I could see the headlamps or the flashlights from the firefighters. The pilot just told me, he said, I'm going to give it my best shot. I was 100% in on we're going to give it a shot, and we're going to do our best, and thank God it worked out.
All right, guys, I'm going to get you out of here, okay? All right.
Once we made it to them and we landed, it was like, no question. I knew we were going to get them out of there.
Out from behind the wall of fire.
Thank you for coming.
And to safety. Lily Tan, NBC Bay Area News.
I'm Jessica Aguirre. Up next, I'm going to take you to Napa. Vintners are walking their properties and assessing the damage. I'm going to introduce you to a man who has made his losses a gain for others in his community and how he sort of befriended and bottled fire. That's next.
When we welcome our West Coast viewers, we'll preview First Lady Melania Trump's address at the RNC tonight. Also, is 6 feet enough social distancing? What new research now tells us about protecting ourselves from coronavirus ahead on Nightly News.
Want to take another live look now from our NBC Bay Area Sky Ranger, the CZU fire in San Mateo and Santa Cruz counties. You can see the helicopter there, and then down below we're going to focus in then on that smoke that's blanketing so much of the Bay Area. So far, about 79,000 acres. It's the smallest of our Bay Area fire complexes. Containment stands at 17%, which is good news. Firefighters say the weather is helping them and the additional crews on site. So there is encouraging news for that fire near the Santa Cruz Mountains and the San Mateo coast. Well, the lifeblood of Napa County is our vineyards. And yes, they are also being impacted. It's especially challenging for the smaller independent vintners.
Yeah, Jessica Aguirre joins us with the story of one winery owner who's been fighting to save his grapes. And Jessica, this is not the first time he's seen fire in his backyard.
No, not at all, Raj and Janelle. You know, nestled on the east side of Napa Valley, on the east of Atlas Peak, are 60 acres of just bucolic land. They have horses and cattle and, of course, grapes, Rhone varietal grapes. Loomis Estate Vineyards produces about 1,000 cases a year, and it is no stranger to fire. In fact, its 2018 release is called Ember, and that was way before the Atlas Peak fire that year surrounded the property on 3 sides. It was spared then, and out of that came the wine Fire, which is going to be released next year. This week, though, the LNU fire raised the stakes and proved less merciful. The fire ravaging Jeff Loomis's barn with his classic car collection, flames pushing right up to his pool, and of course, right through 90% of his vineyard. So how does Loomis make sense of this?
It is a perplexing thing, but I also know it's not something that we can control. We try to prepare as best we can for these situations. I look out, I see short-term devastation and long-term promise. I really try to focus on what can be done and how we can turn some bad into good and look forward to more positive and optimistic times.
And so will you be able to, now, you know, the harvest is just around the corner. Are you going to be able to harvest this?
Yeah, well, that's the big question. So imagine going to a grocery store and buying a bunch of grapes and holding it over your gas stove for 24 hours. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of fruit we can get. But my immediate thought was, we're a little different. We do 4 different harvests based on the number of varietals we have. So we were all set up for pretty much every week in September with a harvest schedule. My plan now is to try to make one wine. And as long as we can make a quality wine, I want to bottle it.
Yes, one quality wine that he can bottle, but then his plan is to actually donate that wine to the local restaurants with the understanding that they use 50% of the profits from what they sell that wine for themselves, and then 50% of the profit would go to a victims fire relief fund for local people in Napa. So very nice of him. So here's the name of the wine. Are you ready? Smoke.
Very fitting.
Loomis Wines, we will keep an eye on them. That's a great story. Thanks, Jess. Let's bring in Jeff Ranieri now. I know about 10 minutes. It was hallelujah. You said you could see some partial blue skies there in the East Bay where you are, Jeff.
Oh. I know. We'll take it where we can get it, right? It's just the air's been so stagnant, smoky, debilitating, hard to be outside for more than 5 minutes. And thankfully for the fog right now, we are at least getting some clear air for parts of the Bay Area. And that's really what I wanted to start off with tonight. And you can see on my San Francisco sky camera view, that fog is rolling in pretty good, even the possibility of some drizzle this evening. So we're starting to see some of this air getting cleaned out. The problem we've had, though, is when the foggy breeze decides to stop, then we start smelling the smoke a lot thicker. Back into Livermore, this is where it's really been the worst today in the Tri-Valley. This has actually improved over the past 2 hours, albeit it still is very, very hazy, way off here towards the distance as we're looking at a view real close to that fire. So what about the air quality tomorrow? We are still looking unhealthy for most of the Bay Area, but at the beaches and the immediate coastline, I wanted to segment this out for you and let you know tomorrow it is expected to be at good levels. Everyone else, though, it'll be touch and go. If we get higher containment on these fires, of course, that air quality will improve quite a bit more. But we need to see those containment numbers go up before we see all of the Bay Area improve. So we have 3 main fire zones, the one in the North Bay, South Bay, Santa Cruz Mountains. Let's get you to the fire conditions and the fire perimeter. I've highlighted some of those hot spots, and today in the North Bay, it's mainly been right there on the north side. The forecast up to 91 tomorrow. Wind gusts as high as 20 miles per hour. Let's bring it to the South Bay, and you can see on this, we had some hot spots in the north and the southern flanks. Tomorrow, 88, winds sustained at 11, gusts to 20. And for the Santa Cruz Mountains, excellent news on this fire today. We did not see any major growth based on the current numbers that we have. It's holding right now at 78,000 acres, 17% contained. So that is a little better news for some of the folks right on that fire line right now. 82 degrees tomorrow, wind gusts up to about 20 miles per hour. Now for the rest of the Bay Area, I'll see some numbers right about near average. 84 in San Jose, 90 Morgan Hill, upper 80s there for Concord, Livermore, Antioch. Closer to the Bay, you have 70s and then 60s right here at your coastline. My extended forecast in San Francisco, decreasing chances of dry lightning. We still have some unstable air moving through California, but tomorrow only a 25% chance, Thursday a 20% chance, and we have 60s right through this weekend in San Francisco. And for the inland valleys, we're looking at 90s the next several days in the extended forecast. I'd love to see some 70s or 80s, but it's just not in the cards for us right now. So I think this evening everybody's going to be able to breathe a little bit easier, but once again, like we had today, as the sea breeze kind of stops a little bit tomorrow, the smoke will kind of ramp back up and then it will get a little better. So it's just going to be this ebb and flow with the smoke until we get those higher containment numbers.
It's an unpredictable pattern. It changes every day. Okay, thanks so much, Jeff. Coming up, she knows a different side to him. One of the daughters of the Golden State Killer writes a letter to the court. What she had to say next. The eldest daughter of the man known as the Golden State Killer is describing her father as kind, loving, and, quote, the best parent. In a 5-page letter released by the court today, Joseph DeAngelo's daughter said she and her daughter were living with him up until his arrest in 2018. She said his role as a father and grandfather were always his #1 priority. He has always consistently given me the best advice, knowledge, and guidance, and my daughter also. He protected me and my daughter every single day, all of our lives. The absence of my father today is a trauma that my daughter and I will never overcome. That was her quote. DeAngelo was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole on Friday. He pleaded guilty to 13 murders and more than a dozen rapes in California that happened back in the 70s and 80s.
Another big night of politics and a lot of energy and pinpointed attacks from the Republicans. Tonight, we expect to see more of the same with a different touch. It's night number 2 of the RNC, the Republican National Convention. Melania Trump, the First Lady, is the headliner. She'll speak from the White House's recently redesigned Rose Garden. Other speakers include 2 of the president's children, Tiffany and Eric Trump, as well as Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Lester Holt leads our coverage beginning at 7 p.m. We're back in a moment.
A fire team from Texas showing a little ingenuity while fighting the SCU fire, which is burning in multiple counties, including the Sunol Regional Wilderness. The crew said water was very limited, so they had to use a portable pump and pulled from a nearby pool to get some water. Now, with so many fires going on at one time, local crews are spread thin, and all 99 engines from 8 states have come in to help us in Northern California.
We appreciate the fight. Up next is Lester Holt. We'll see you back at 6 o'clock with a lot more updates on the fire and air.